Goedenavond. Jihadistische groeperingen krijgen steeds meer invloed in Burkina Faso. De regering van het Afrikaanse land heeft moeite de situatie onder controle te krijgen, waardoor de ene na de andere coup elkaar opvolgt. En vooral christenen met een islamitische achtergrond zijn de dupe van deze explosieve situatie. In de studio Boureima Diallo, pastor uit Burkina Faso. Welcome and good evening. Thank you for being here and welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for welcoming me here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Okay. How would you describe the current situation in Burkina Faso at the moment?
Thank you very much for asking, and I would like to thank all people who are praying for Burkina Faso, who love Burkina Faso. For a few years now, the situation in Burkina Faso has been challenging regarding the security situation, where various jihadi groups are trying to take over the country, and the army is fighting to regain control of a nation. And we are encouraged, despite what is going on, about what God is doing, and also we are encouraged also by the victories that the army is gaining against the terrorist groups. And the situation is a bit challenging, and as for statistics, verified statistics that have been able to gather, there has been about 1,339 churches that have been closed down because of a security situation, and 89 churches have been destroyed, and about 1,186 pastors are displaced because of terrorism, and 10 pastors have been martyred, 5 priests have been martyred, and about 50,000 Christians are internally displaced, and over 2 million in the nation are currently internally displaced. And it is about 10% of a country that is internally displaced. And when you consider the World Watch list of Burkina Faso, back in 2019, Burkina Faso was ranking about 61 in the most persecuted countries. But in 2023, Burkina Faso is 23rd. And this is
there's an uprising in the persecution.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is the situation we are facing. We had 2 coup d'etats where there has been military takeover twice, and all this in the drive to bring back better security in the country. And that's what we are facing currently.
So Burkina Faso, translated, it means land of the upright people. So
that's right.
I guess that's not randomly chosen. How is this land of the righteous, of the upright people? How does it turn into a land where there are so many terrorist groups?
Thank you so much for asking. It's true, and the name Burkina Faso means the land of upright people, of people of integrity, and we have not yet got there, but it is a quest, and it is a drive that we become that land and that we live to the values of that. And in the last 10 years or so, we have seen the change. Burkina Faso used to be a peaceful country, a tolerant country, and known as tolerant in so many standards, and welcoming and hospitable country. But in the last 10 years, it has been quite a challenge for that when we started experiencing the first ever terrorist attacks in the country. And,
so how do these terrorist groups act?
The terrorist groups, we see the manifestation when the attack happened, and it's through bombing. The first attack happened at a restaurant, popular restaurant that were used by expats, people, mostly in the capital city. And also there was a hotel that was attacked, 2 hotels in that cafe. And it sent a shock in the country. And we were so surprised and shocked as to how did that happen in the capital city. And one army barrack also was, or headquarters of the army was also attacked at that. So that really brought a lot of concern in the country, and also seeing that a peaceful country and known as tolerant, that just turned like that. And it didn't take us long to just discover that this is part of a plan of a terrorist group to destabilize the country and to really bring a mayhem. And certain jihadi groups claim to be affiliated to Al-Qaeda or to the ACME, Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, and others are loners.
Yeah.
Loners, like when they attack, they are not like linked to any non-terrorist groups, but they have got their agenda as well.
Okay. So when we hear stories of your region, it's mostly about the Fulani shepherds and that they fight Christians and scare them away. You're also born as Fulani and raised as a Fulani shepherd. Can you tell us what kind of people Fulani are?
Thank you very much. I would like to say that as Fulani, the Fulani people are hospitable people and lovely people. And also, as a Christian, I like to say that they are the image of God and needing to connect with God. These are the Fulani. Fulani are known to be a nomadic people group. They live in 21 countries of Africa. We are nomad and mainly Muslims and spread across 21 countries of Africa. Now, we are cattle raisers, and it is extensive type cattle raising. It's not like where you keep cattle in one place. And Fulani practice what is called the seasonal migration, where they go to feed their cattle from one place to the other. And I want to say that there has been like not written agreement, but customary agreement, whereby when farmers harvest and the Fulani come with their cows and feed from the stocks that are left in the field. Okay. And also at the same time they fertilize, their cows fertilize the land of the agricultures. That's what used to be the case. There was commonly accepted, you know, moving from one place to the other. But there has been a change that happened recently since we see like land grabbing, whereby land hasn't become like a common commodity like that, like common land, where you see a forest or a savanna that belong to everyone and to no one, where the farmer can go chop the wood for his need, and where the shepherd can go and feed his cow and then comes back. It belonged to everyone and to no one at the same time. But now we have seen the land grabbing season, whereby land has become a commodity where people sell the land, and often when the Fulani move with their cattle for a season, they can move as and stay to feed their cows as long as 8 to 9 months. So when it starts raining, they come back. By the time they come back, they see that the land is sold and fenced, so it becomes an issue sometimes. But also, another thing that I want to say is that now the Fulani are named a lot in these conflicts. And in Nigeria, we see that Fulani are also named. I want to just ask as a Fulani that we don't make the amalgam by thinking that Fulani are terrorists. No, I don't believe that Fulani are terrorists. As a Fulani, I may be biased, but what I would like to say is that certain maybe Fulani are terrorists, but not all Fulani are terrorists. And also the terrorist groups have been quite strategic as well at using when the army arrests terrorists, they come from different backgrounds, really, and also including Fulani as well in it. So what I would like to say is that the Fulani are victims of a terrorist, and they are also used by the terrorists to achieve the terrorist aims as well. And it didn't help. For now, the Fulani are named as terrorists, but as a Christian, I would like to say also that they need God. Without God, without God, we will be against humanity. Without God, we wouldn't see the other as the image of God. And I would like to invite people to begin to seeing the Fulani as the image of God, and the terrorists themselves. This is the image of God that we need to link up with and to help these people free up from the grips of terrorism.
Okay. Well, I'd like to dive a little bit more into your history and the way you grew up, because you grew up as a Fulani. What was that like?
Thank you very much for asking. And yes, I'm born and bred as Fulani. My parents are Fulani, and I was born in the Fulani village. Growing up like any other Fulani boy in the village, you learn to love.
With an Islamite background?
Yes, in a Fulani village. The Fulani are known to be Muslims, so I grew up as a Muslim, and that's what I knew as religion, as a Muslim growing up, and also looking after sheep, and look after goats, after cows. It is an honor whenever we get the opportunity to go out with the cows, and it's so fulfilling as well. And I learned to love cows as early as I can remember, you know, it's or as early as I don't remember. And also we are taught Islamic as well.
Yeah. How did that influence you growing up?
All I knew was Islam, so that's what I really knew, and as a religion, until one day one of the employees of my father shared the gospel with me for the first time ever.
And how old were you when you came to
I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Okay, that's pretty young.
Very young, that's right. That was when, for the first time ever, I heard about Jesus. And it was through the witness of one of my father's employees. My father used to be a government official and retired at the time. I was born during my dad's retirement. My dad, was the first ever forestry engineer of our country. He used to be called Upper Volta, and he did his studies in France. And whilst he was in France there, my dad met Christians. And when I heard the gospel from one of his employees, that person asked me this simple question: Boureima, what would happen to you if before God your good deeds and bad deeds are equal? If it is all 1 kilo, Boureima, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to heaven, or are you going to go to hell? It was the first time ever that I faced that reality, that I need to answer what would happen. For we have been taught and brought up to do good deeds, but I never knew how much good deed I have done or how much bad deed I have done, or what would happen if the balance is equal.
You needed grace.
Yes, exactly, that grace. And that when Adama, who shared the gospel with me, started saying to me that there is nothing you can do to pay yourself to earn heaven. No, it is by grace. Christ has done it for you, for you couldn't do it. And he explained to me more and more about grace. And that really grabbed my heart, and I wanted to follow Christ. And he insisted that before I follow him to church, I need to ask my father the permission to go to church.
I can imagine. Was that difficult, because your father was Islamic, to tell him that you became a Christian?
Yes, I like to say that it wasn't easy, for it dawned on me then that I was the first Christian ever in the village. I have never seen anyone go to church. It was only his employee that was not a Fulani, he was Mosi, who was going to church. And also it dawned on me the reality, what would happen. And I postponed it many times. But then I had the courage one day to ask my father the permission. And then I went, and with all respect I owed my dad, I asked him the permission to go to church, to follow Adama,
and how did he respond?
Amazing.
Yeah?
When
Not
I
like you expected him to respond.
I didn't expect that, you're right. And when I asked my father the permission, I can still live it. I can still say it. I asked my father, I said, Dad, I'd like tomorrow to follow Adama to go to church. And my father asked me one question: why do you want to go to church? And the tone of the voice that he used caused me to even regret that whole romance that I had around me, that I want to go to church. I couldn't answer. After a silence, my dad said to me, I allow you to go to church, but I want you to be a good Christian. That was like a dream.
Yeah.
And that really gave me affirmation and support from my father, from my Muslim father, that I can go to church.
That's very special, I think. Yeah.
And my dad was educated. He sent us to school. Whenever we got back from school, he used to ask us about what we learned from school. One day I came back from church, and my father asked me what I learned from church. And, you know, there's another challenge. Adama was not Fulani. He didn't speak much Fulani. So his French was also little. So he was mixing between Fulani and the bit that he knew of French and his mother tongue, Maori, to tell me, to translate for me what the pastor was saying. So I had to run to my dad what I can recollect. One day my father explained to me in Fulani the full story, and I was even amazed. And so that
he did know the whole story.
He knew the story. And I was amazed how. And my father gave me his Bible. And the Bible is here. That this is a Bible that my father was using. And when my father gave me, it was older than this. I have put covers now to protect it, for the pages are old and a bit tatty. But when you open the Bible and you read, you will see that my father has read it. There are notes that sometimes he took on the Bible.
Yeah.
And my father gave it to me. He said to me, I bought this Bible in France whilst I was an international student studying forestry. And that was my first Bible. Wow. My father really affirmed me. He encouraged me. And 2 years later, my father died. And then my uncle became the father figure of the family. That where he had been to Mecca, he was El Hajj. That where I have seen opposition. Yeah. And it was there. By then I have led to Christ 3 of my siblings. Yeah. And we all had to give faith.
Because of you coming to Christ, your siblings also accepted Christ.
Yes. And you know what happened? When I started going to church, this pastor, through the translation, I understood that he said to me, now you are a Christian, now you need to share also the gospel to your family, so that they may be saved. And that's all I knew. Yeah. I started sharing the gospel.
And now you're a pastor in the village where you grew up.
That's right. By the grace of God, I'm now a pastor, and also I'm training Fulani to become missionaries amongst the Fulani people themselves. And in my family, we are 18, and 9 are followers of Christ. My father used to have 3 wives, so we are 18 in the family, and 9 are following Christ. And I'm a pastor in my village, where we have got a training center, and where we train Fulani to become disciple makers from Burkina to other countries as well. Yeah,
because it's very needed, because you shared with us about the situation. I want to go back to the country itself. Yeah. How is the current government trying to solve the situation with the terrorist groups?
Thank you very much. And I'm not an expert in answering those security questions, but from what we see as people who are serving also God, and particularly aiming for the same aim as the government, for the country to be peaceful. The challenge is big, for sure. The challenge is really big for, there are a number of countries that are impacted. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, and also Sudan as well, as we see in that band. It is a hotspot for those terrorist attacks. And the government is fighting and to gain the country back. For when the military government took power, they announced that we have lost 40% of the country in the hand of a terrorist. So the government is fighting back and mobilizing.
Yeah, because the military is now, at the moment we're doing this interview, the military is in control of Burkina Faso. Is that right?
Yes. Burkina Faso has seen 2 coups in 1 year. All due to the security, the state of the security, and the military has taken power to bring and to regain the land that is lost in the hand of the terrorists. Yeah. And we believe that God doesn't do anything by chance. No. And we are really impressed by this new military government and the call from the president for the whole nation for a day of prayer and fasting for the country. That happened, I think, on the 20th of May, whereby the government called on to all religious faiths for a day of prayer and fasting for us to commit the situation to God and to call on to God. And also another thing is that the government is encouraging the church groups, the mosques, and all religious involved in working for the better cohesion of the country. And I want to say that the government is observing, the media is observing as well, and all is not doom and gloom. But last year, just this year in March, I was called to receive a Nation Builders Award among 7 other people that have been selected on that, for the good that the media, for the good that the government also, or the government bodies see that the ministry does in terms of bettering life, in terms of bringing better social cohesion in the country.
So you do see change. It's a difficult situation, but you do have hope.
Yes, we do have hope, and it is encouraging. It may be that the media is not interested in seeing that, but at church, in terms of the church side, we see that there are more new and more disciples that are being made. People are calling on to ask more deep questions, and we are also connecting to people who once were doubting about their commitment to God, and who just are really on fire for God. And we are seeing also people who are having dreams and visions of Christ coming to faith.
Oh, wow.
In our context, as we aim, by the grace of God, to make disciples that multiply amongst the Fulani people, we are seeing also an increase in that level where Fulani are coming to Christ. They need God. Yes, we are facing persecution. Persecution is heightening for sure.
Yeah.
But these are persevering and wanting.
God is working.
God is working.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You also are responsible for a medical center in your town. Is that dangerous? Is that a trigger for terrorist groups to attack?
Thank you for asking. I believe as a follower of Christ that we are called to add value to our nations, to add value to the communities. As Christ said, that, and also the Bible said, we are salt and light. And as we follow Christ, we are to add value to our communities. We have seen, as the security situation is deteriorating, in Burkina Faso, according to statistics, 735 health establishments has been closed down because of the security situation. So this is putting a strain in the existing or in the remaining health establishment. And as church, what do we do? As ministry, what do we do? So by the grace of God, we are involved in bringing conventional health care to areas where it is not accessible or it is difficult to access. So every 3 months, we are doing a community health day where we invite specialist doctors and nurses to come to a rural area and to provide health care. And we have been doing that for 12 years now. And by the grace of God, last year, the government has given us the permission to open a medical center. And this is the second level of the health services. And we are looking to see how we can open that medical center to provide conventional care, to be an expression of Christ's love to the community. And the government is really encouraging, the health authority is encouraging us in that, and we are working toward that. And we are seeing the impact as well. I can tell you this, just we do that once every 3 months in June. No, in July, on the 29th of July was the last one that we did, and in this month or the next month we will do the next one. There was a man who came, he's a Muslim, he had an accident and he had a leg that is amputated because of the accident, and he walked with a crutch for so long, and that deformed him a bit. He came and the orthopedist assessed him, and he prescribed for him to have a brace. By the grace of God and through the contribution of many, that brace is now reality.
Wow.
And he started walking. Guess what? That is sending a wonderful testimony of Christ's love in the community.
Amazing.
And that's what we would like to see, that despite of challenge, that the church is being salt and light.
That's wonderful, wonderful story. We are almost through our time, but I have one question that I'd like to ask.
Thank you.
What can we pray for?
Thank you very much. We would like you to pray for Burkina Faso and also to plead before God for the terrorism situation to stop. And that's one thing, that security, good security may come back to the nation. And also that the church, despite of the challenge, that we never lose hope in Christ. And also please pray that the international community as well may voice for Burkina Faso, that certain sanctions that have been imposed be lifted for the country to breathe better.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, Pastor Diallo.
You're welcome. Thank you.